We're back talking about Harry Potter this weekend. Now we're going to talk about the next movie in the franchise, or the sixth movie in the franchise, Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Half-Blood Prince is directed by David Yates and is the story of Harry's 6th year at Hogwarts, where things have gotten a little intense. Since the return of Lord Voldemort, there have been new defenses put up on Hogwarts. Now there's more security which has been enforced. A threat is looming over every single student. Harry has discovered a potions book which is signed by the Half-Blood Prince, which has some secrets in it and some things in it which could work in favor or not so much in terms of Harry's life. There's a new potions master by the name of Professor Slughorn who may have some secrets regarding what Lord Voldemort may have done as a child, and Harry and Dumbledore are trying to figure out what that is and try to stop Voldemort and in a sense kill him. There are many narrative grounds to break on this movie. This is essentially what I like to call the calm before the storm. The Prisoner of Azkaban was the calm before the storm. It was a movie that was a little funnier, it was more entertaining, it had a lot of lighthearted moments amongst the darkness. It was a movie that was a lot more fun just before things got much darker in The Goblet of Fire. This is the second calm before the storm. This is a movie that is very similar in terms of tones and ways. While it is a darker movie than The Prisoner of Azkaban, there are definitely a lot of lighter moments in this film. Moments between Harry, Hermione, and Ron which are quite entertaining and are quite funny. This is actually a very humorous movie, and it's a movie that's slowly leading into the hell which is about to break loose in the Deathly Hallows. Half-Blood Prince manages to balance out these two tones very well. You have here a movie which is also trying to set up everything that's about to happen in the end for Harry Potter's story, while also setting up a more complex and a more intimate relationship between the three friends. And by intimate, I'm more referring to Hermione's feelings for Ron. This is the movie where we really get hints about this thing. We know at the end of this they are going to get together, but this is the first movie where Hermione straight up expresses her feelings for Ron, and Harry expressing his feelings for Ginny. These are moments in the series where things really start to come to a head when it comes to their personal lives. This is definitely a more personal film and a darker film, as has been said several times already in this review. For many people, Half-Blood Prince is not a good movie. It's a movie where nothing much happens. It's a movie where there is very little. There's no Lord Voldemort in this movie. You have only one frame of Ralph Fiennes as Harry has a bit of a vision somewhere in the movie. That's it. That is the only time we get to see Lord Voldemort in this movie. The rest of the movie is more about Lord Voldemort as a child, or as he was known back then, Tom Riddle. This is essentially his origin story. This is you getting to know what Voldemort was like as a kid. And I will say, it is very interesting when you look at that storyline. This is a movie that is more conversation heavy. It is not an action-filled movie. There are some moments of action, but there aren't many, and they're very few, and they're very brief. For example, I think the longest fight in this movie is about 45 seconds to a minute long, and it's a bathroom fight between Harry and Malfoy. That's the only time when there's actually any great action. The rest of the action is very brief and very momentary, which allows in for some very interesting dialogue between all the characters. There is greater relationship development between Harry and Dumbledore in this movie, and these are the scenes in the movie that work the best. These are wonderful sequences. The conversations which these two men have are very interesting and very intellectual. You can tell that these are men who have very interesting things to discuss about, and you can see each one of their thought processes working off of each other. They make a very good duo in this movie, as do Harry and Hermione, and they have a great repertoire in this movie as well. They have some funny dialogues. They have a lot of times where they have the same kind of thoughts going on at the same time, which leads to some interesting banter. There's some moments with Harry and Ron as well where there's some interesting conversations going on. You have a subplot with Ron and with this girl. He's now suddenly dating somebody who really likes him. These are things which are slowly coming together, creating a rather compelling narrative that makes up for the action in this movie. And I will say that that is one of the best parts of this movie. The thing that really won me over with the Half-Blood Prince is the filmmaking. It is a brilliantly made film. The cinematography in this movie is the best of the Harry Potter series. There are some very interesting things they do with the camera in this film which I thought were really nice. Also, some of the tracking shots which are in this movie, along with the use of colors, they make it a visually stunning film. Another thing in this movie that really wins over is the acting. And I'm not just talking about all the actors in this movie, because they are all very good in this movie. They've clearly come a long way into these films, and they have done a magnificent job so far. I'm talking about two performances in particular, that being Alan Rickman and Tom Felton. Now, these two are phenomenal in this movie. Alan Rickman gives easily the best performance of the entire series thus far as Snape. He's omnipresent throughout the entire film, and as you will find out by the end of the movie, he is the Half-Blood Prince. In this movie, he makes an unbreakable vow with Narcissa Malfoy, Draco's mother, saying that if Draco is unable to carry out the task that Voldemort has assigned him, Snape must do so and protect Draco at all costs. And in this movie, Snape is constantly harrowed by the fact that he's made this vow and that if he doesn't uphold it, he will die. And he is always watching over Draco and making sure that that boy is safe. These are moments in the film which, when you notice it, they are few in number, but they are definitely moments where you realize how much he cares for this boy, and sometimes in a little way against his will, because he doesn't want to come and interfere with Voldemort's plans. And he gave what I consider an Oscar-worthy performance. There are moments with Alan Rickman which are just fantastic. I love the part where he's talking to Dumbledore and he's saying that,
have you ever considered that you ask too much, that you take too much for granted? Has it ever crossed your brilliant mind that I don't want to do this anymore?
Whether it has or hasn't is irrelevant.
I love that moment. It was such a great foreshadowing for some things to be talked about later in the series. I love that. It was a great dialogue. Now about Tom Felton as Draco Malfoy. Now this is a character who a lot of people don't like. And in this movie, you feel for his character in ways because he's having to face a very tough decision. Voldemort has told him to kill Dumbledore. This is something he's not comfortable with. Throughout the entire film, he barely has any dialogue until the final scene in the movie where he faces Dumbledore and he has the wand pointed at this old man. And that's the only time where he really says anything. The rest of the movie is a very silent, very visually driven performance, and the emotions and the way you see his expressions change to certain things, they are brilliant. You really feel for his character at points like this when you see him struggling. You can't see him think straight. He is conflicted. He doesn't know whether he wants to carry out this deed or not. In fact, in the end, Harry says that he was apparently lowering his wand, which we can tell. There is a very subtle moment where Bellatrix comes in, and just before she comes in, you can see Draco slowly trying to lower his wand, but then she comes in and says, do it, and he keeps his wand up a bit. These are the moments in the film which are very interesting, and these are subtle directional hints which David Yates brings. I do also have to talk about Professor Slughorn, who was very good in this movie. He is the key to everything, because he tells Tom Riddle something when he's very young. He tells him about a Horcrux, an object which you can conceal part of your soul in, and it can be done only by killing people. Here we go. But Jim Broadbent's performance in this movie is entertaining. I did really like his character, and he did a very good job of bringing Slughorn to life. He made him a very humorous and a very enthralling character to behold. The direction by David Yates is brilliant, and from this point on, for the rest of the series, this is the part where you see David Yates really show his directional skills. In the Order of the Phoenix, there were times where I thought he was playing it a little safe, where he was trying to see what would work and what wouldn't. In this movie, you see him really go for it, and he does some interesting things with this direction, which, in case you've not seen the movie yet, or if you don't remember the movie very well, he does some brilliant things with the camera and with the actors in the movie that are rather interesting. And the best thing is the tone. Now, I've said this movie is like The Calm Before the Storm. It keeps a great balance between the light and the dark elements. When the movie has to get dark, it makes sure it really hits that, which is the finale of the film. Now, as you know, in the end, Dumbledore dies. He is killed by Snape because Draco can't bring himself to do that. The death scene is handled brilliantly. They don't extend it too long. They keep it just right to make sure that the impact of it is there. And at the end of it, you do feel sad about the fact that Dumbledore is gone, because he goes out as this very feeble old man. You see him so human all of a sudden, this powerful wizard that everyone talks about, and they keep talking about how Dumbledore is the greatest wizard and you cannot touch this guy because he's so powerful. And you see him be this old feeble man in front of Severus Snape just moments before his death. It really humanizes him, and you really feel the sadness as it hits you. And you see that after looking around for the Horcrux and finally finding it that it's a fake, and now Harry is going to go on the hunt for the rest of the Horcruxes to finally find them and defeat Voldemort. Guys, in the end, Half-Blood Prince is fantastic. It's outstanding. What I'm about to say is strictly my opinion. I completely understand that. This is my favorite Harry Potter movie for a lot of reasons. Not talking just about the cinematography, not just talking about the acting, but the way they handle these elements, the way they do it, the way they kind of bring out a balance between the light and the dark, the way they have these conversations which are so enthralling. the way they humanize so many elements of the Harry Potter franchise. This is so good. It makes it feel more connect-worthy, and it feels more like they are taking place in a world where you understand the emotions, and it leads to a more engaging experience. As much as I'm engaged with the other Harry Potter films, this is the one that really hit me personally on a lot of notes. It made me reflect on these characters. It made me feel for the characters. You got me feeling for Draco Malfoy in this movie, a character who I don't even like in this series. And I'm just gonna say it, I'm gonna give Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince a 10 out of 10. I realize there's going to be a lot of people who are not completely on board with this opinion, but I would say that if you should ever have the chance to watch it again, give it a try from an open mind. You might really end up liking this movie, or you can stick with your own opinion, whatever you want. Guys, make sure to check out the reviews for Deathly Hallows Part 1 and Part 2, which are coming out next week. Very excited to talk about those movies. The rest of the Harry Potter reviews can be found over here. You can see this dialogue box, which will take you to the playlist. You guys are the best. Thank you so much for watching, and please subscribe if you want to see more, and we'll talk about movies and stuff.